welcome to the Leading with Lean podcast. My name's Philip Holt, author of Leading with Lean, The Simplicity of Lean, and Leading Lean by Living Lean. And in this podcast, I narrate all three of my books, chapter by chapter, in which I share with you my over 30 years of experience as a lean leader across many companies globally. Leading with Lean, Chapter 4, Building Capability. The importance of conscious incompetence. Knowing what you don't know is an extremely important part of learning and is an essential trait of the lean leader. This enlightened humility is the best antidote to an effect identified by Dunning and Kruger, whereby the inexperienced who are unable to identify their own incompetence have inflated self-assessments of their competence. In the book, you would see a graph which demonstrates the Dunning-Kruger effect, showing that from non to expert experience doesn't have a straight line of confidence. The reason being that Dunning-Kruger have identified that with a very little amount of experience, a vast majority of people will have a very high confidence in their own ability. This might colloquially be described as a little knowledge is dangerous. This is a trait that cannot be tolerated in a lean leader, as this will translate as arrogance to colleagues and will be a major barrier to learning. The lean leader therefore needs to ensure that they learn how to identify their own competence blind spots and therefore be able to help others. This transition towards continuous learning, both as an individual and an organisation, follows four main steps. Step 1. Unconscious incompetence. At its best, this can be described as blissful ignorance, and in rare cases is a great enabler of innovation, as it allows people to attain results that normal paradigms may prevent them from achieving. However, generally this is not the case, and not knowing what you don't know is a real disabler of advancement. The most effective way to tackle this is to ensure that the required competencies and levels are known, and that we measure our competence level to expose the gaps based upon fact. This requires a willingness and acceptance of competency gaps being an opportunity to drive performance and not an implicit weakness. Step 2. Conscious incompetence. Once we've realised what we don't know, we can start to learn, and this is an exciting time, particularly during periods of transformation. In this phase, we can read, experiment, study, hire external resources, team up with colleagues and other organisations to build solutions and fill knowledge gaps. Again, by being fact-based and measuring our improvement, we can ensure that we manage the learning and our effectiveness. Step 3. Conscious competence. This is the part of the cycle where we get good at doing whatever it is that we're learning to do, and we'll even start to create new insights and knowledge in this area. Here we start to create experts in the subject. Where there are multiple people going through this learning, we can harness the fast learners to bring others along through training and coaching, and through learning systems can share the learning to accelerate our organisational knowledge. Unconscious competence is the fourth stage. And at this stage, we do things without even thinking and know things that we're not even conscious of knowing. This is true mastery, but only when we're able to shift back into conscious competence to teach and coach others when necessary. In fact, that is one of the key criteria of measuring a subject matter expert, but not all are able to make the switch back into conscious competence, whilst for the lean master, this is absolutely essential. The competency learning cycle is, for the most part, followed unconsciously, and it is critical in a high-performing organisation that we manage these phases and assist our team members to navigate the learning cycle as a core part of our organisation's development into a learning organisation and to become successful in our lean transformation. And in the book, you would actually see the 2x2 matrix, which shows on the X matrix incompetence and competence, and on the Y-axis unconscious and conscious. And what you see is that cycle from unconscious incompetence through to conscious incompetence, through to conscious competence, and then finally unconscious competence. Developing the right lean expertise. The skill of being able to realise conscious incompetence and, when skilled, to drop back into conscious competence to train and coach each other is not natural to all people, and only a few are able to do this really well. I'm sure that you must know or have known people who are almost geniuses at what they do, be it in their field of work, hobby or sport, but find it impossible to explain exactly how they do it or to teach you how to move through the learning cycle. This relates directly to the task of employing people with a lean DNA to drive lean transformation, and is a challenge that I've had to undertake and have observed a number of times. The usual shortcut is to employ people who obviously do have the lean DNA, having many years of experience in one of the world-class lean organisations. However, a caution here is that not all will know how to build or create the environment and the organisational capability to make it happen. They can tell you what is missing and why you need it, but not how to build it. And in my experience, the creator builder is a rare breed, probably no more than 5% of those people who even have the experience in one of their role model organisations. There are, unfortunately, no shortcuts to employing the right people for this task, and in my experience, it is therefore incumbent upon an organisation to have developed the strategy for their lean transformation with a clear vision of where they want to get to, described in hard and soft KPIs, key performance indicators, and a plan of how to get there. From this plan, capability and competency gaps can be identified, and a combination of consultancy support, external hires, and internal development can be used to close those gaps. Hiring consultants. Once you've determined where your gaps are, hiring consultancy support is a great way to 1. Quickly fill the gaps in terms of numbers and competency, and 2. Bring in external experience and benchmarking. However, it is a particularly challenging task, with a common pitfall being that the organisation relinquishes its own ownership of the transformation to the consultants under the misguided aim of increasing the speed of transformation. On the contrary, it must be a prerequisite of any engagement with a consultancy firm that 3 fundamental principles are in place. Number 1, the consultants are there to support and develop the organisation's staff and must not engage or run any activities without a member of the organisation being in the lead. Number 2, all training materials and intellectual property used or created during the transformation are the property of the client. And then finally, number 3, knowledge transfer is one of the KPIs for the measurement of the success of the engagement and must be measured as objectively as possible. For example, by number of certified practitioners and the amount of transformation model training materials and standard work in place. All of the staff to be used by the consultancy firm must be approved by the organisation to ensure that they have the sufficient expertise and the soft skills to manage the transformation. It must be clear by now that the lean leader's hands-on involvement is a necessity, and that the hiring of consultants is not an easy option, but in some ways more challenging than internally resourcing. However, the use of some form of consultancy support, both at the onset and at particular times during the transformation, is in most cases the only way to bring in sufficiently skilled resources in a reasonable time frame and to build the lean transformation approach with sufficient external expertise. The consultancy support is therefore the starting point of capability building and not an alternative to the external hires or the internal development routes. Hi, Philip here. Sorry to interrupt the narration of this particular chapter, but I just wanted to remind you that all of my personal profits from the books go to charity. So if you would like to buy a book, it would really be helpful. Otherwise, if you feel that the podcast is sufficient, then please feel free to make a donation to my current charity, which is Women's Aid. It's a great charity which helps to stop domestic violence for women and children. Thank you. External hires. By definition, as you are not yet a world-class lean enterprise, you are unlikely to have a critical mass of lean experts in your organisation, and therefore, just as with hiring consultants, buying in lean experts from outside is a great way of bringing in the expertise that you'll need. Except that, unlike with the hiring of consultants, the aim is to recruit long-term employees who will make a great contribution as lean leaders. Nevertheless, as I discussed earlier in the chapter, simply hiring someone with the right badge on their CV in terms of having worked at one of the lean role model companies is not a guarantee, as we must ensure that they know how to create the environment for lean thinking and not simply what it should look like and how to work in it when it exists. This isn't easy, and due diligence in employing people the right ability to collaborate in visualising what the future should look like, identifying the current state, creating the transformation plan and driving its execution is crucial. Again, using consultants can support this by firstly relieving pressure to hire quickly and secondly, supporting the recruitment process. The recruitment process for the external hires can be used as a model for the organisation's future approach, as it should ensure that the process, whilst requiring upfront investment, increases the effectiveness and retention of the people who are employed by the organisation. There is some great advice on the recruitment process by Christine Ligorio-Chafkin of Inc.com, providing input for each step. Firstly, the job description. It should describe the future that you want for the lean expert, the way that you expect them to act, and the elements of the role that are most critical to delivering the lean transformation and to providing a clear job title. Critical to the job description is to not only focus on the best parts of the role, but to also be honest about the potential deal breakers for potential candidates. For example, if travel is likely to be 50% of the role, ensure that it's clear in the job description. This will be the template for the job advertisement, but in the latter stages ensure that any in-company jargon is either translated into plain language or explained fully, but ideally jargon should be non-existent. Number 2, be competitive. The role must be positioned in the organisation at the right grading and pay scale, so that sufficient time should be spent with the human resources partner to ensure that this is done based upon the organisation's policies and benchmarking in the market. A caveat here is not to overpay for people. While we want to hire great people who will be lean leaders in our organisation, this should be possible without remunerating them at a level that will alienate their colleagues. Remember to highlight any non-salary benefits that you have, such as healthcare, pension, childcare benefits, or flexible working practices. Also ensure that the high level of influence that the position provides and career prospects are highlighted. Find better candidates is the third element. A truism in recruitment is that if the best candidates don't know about the job, they won't apply. And so ensuring that you have the right route to the best candidates is critical. Consider using specialised recruitment agencies, particularly where your organisation is inexperienced in this field or doesn't have the capacity in its HR department. But their use should be screened to ensure that they truly know how this marketplace works and can add value. Whilst their commissions can be off-putting, the business case can be compelling when we compare the impact of hiring the right candidate versus hiring no candidate, or even worse, the wrong candidate. As you hire the right candidates, don't overlook using their networks. In the era of LinkedIn, premium membership can allow you to access the same pool of candidates that was previously the domain of professional recruiters. Number 4, shortlist well. Determining who to shortlist of the many applications that you will hopefully receive is a challenge in itself, but as with most things allied to lean thinking, it will be easier if you are well prepared. In this case, a well-written job description will allow us to access the CVs of the applicants against the key criteria. Therefore, for a lean master posting, we would be able to assess the applicants on, for example, their tenure in roles of the right seniority, experience in comparable scale organisations, multi-site transformations, functional fit, for example, manufacturing, sales, R&D, coaching experience, and other elements that we consider key. From this, we will be able to shortlist and undertake interviews with those that we deem most appropriate for the role. And then finally, number 5 is around interviewing better. The interview process has to be more than a simple face-to-face discussion. Instead, it should be a thorough dialogue with candidates who will be interviewing us as much as we are them. This should progress with a strong sense of urgency and quite quickly, but this should not be confused with rushing, as thorough preparation will make it a fast but effective process. A typical sequence that I use is as follows. A. Telephone interview of around half an hour to confirm the shortlisting and validate any ambiguity. B. In-person interviews with the interview panel. And then C. A lean simulation to assess their problem-solving and team-working skills. Parts B and C work best when the candidates are brought in on the same day and the panel meets them on a carousel, allowing a direct comparison without the risk of time lag influencing the panel members. This approach allows also the lean simulation to be run for the candidates as a team, allowing us to assess them in direct comparison with each other. The panel needs to be balanced and should include the lean leader, but also members from the businesses or functions that the person will be working for and with, as well as an HR partner. The balance will allow not only technical but also softer skills to be assessed. One caveat around this is to be careful not to hire people who are fit for the organisation, the reason being that we want to make a significant change in our ways of working and so we need people who will challenge the status quo rather than fit into it. As the motivational speaker Tony Robbins once famously said, "If you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten." Ultimately, if we want to hire change agents rather than same agents, we will need to ensure that the recruitment process is focused on bringing in people who, to a certain extent, provide a contrast to our current culture. Internal development. In the next chapter, I will outline the importance of the Lean certification program in the transformation model. However, for now, it suffices to highlight the value of a certification program in the development of internal candidates for three main reasons. One, ensuring a standardised methodology for the training, coaching and certification of our people in lean thinking. Two, embedding lean thinking into our employees' daily work by integrating learning by doing and on-the-job coaching into the certification path. And three, providing an incentive to learn about lean through a recognised certification that provides a sense of achievement and the opportunity to demonstrate a new skill. The development of our people will be core to the remit of any external consultancy that we hire, and also central to the job description of the external hires. The vision should be that we move from a probable baseline of less than 1 to 2% internally certified employees to 100% in the future state. The certification level will be graduated from Lean Foundation through to Lean Master, and the 100% level will be at the first level of certification only. However, even at this first level, our people will understand the fundamentals of lean thinking, such as daily management, problem solving and Kaizen, and be able to participate actively in the lean transformation. Through this internal development of our people, we would expect that over time we would move from filling all lean expert roles with external hires and consultants in the starting phase to filling greater than 80% internally after 5 years. That all of our senior leaders will have reached an advanced level of certification, and that a large number of them would have rotated through at least one lean transformation role. Distributed expertise. As mentioned in the prior section, whilst all employees will ultimately be certified in lean thinking, this will be at the first level of certification, a level that I like to call Lean Foundation. We will further require people at the advanced level of certification, with those being the cohort of people who are supporting the other people, the rest of the organisation, on a daily basis in their daily management, problem solving and Kaizen activities. These will be the line managers throughout the chain, and in line with span of control, we would expect to have around one person certified at the Lean Advanced level for every 10 people in the team. Whilst in the future state we would expect to see our line managers certified at the expert level, in the early days we would expect that this will predominantly be the reserve of our lean champions and coaches in the functions and businesses, the people who are driving the lean transformation on a daily basis. Again, we would expect that the span of control would be around 10, and thus that we would have approximately one lean expert for every 10 lean advanced certified personnel, and hence for every 100 employees. At the highest level of certification are our lean masters, who are co-creating the vision with the senior leadership, and which will be a relatively small number of people, around 1 for every 1,000 employees. Nevertheless, in a global organisation with, say, 100,000 employees, would still need around 100 lean masters, which requires a significant combination of recruitment, training and coaching. I hope that this chapter has made it clear that the learning elements of the lean transformation and the demands it places on the lean leader are significant, and that an understanding of the learning cycle combined with developing the right lean expertise are absolutely necessities and worthy of a high degree of focus.